From playing a villain for only the second time in his decades-long acting career, to news on the storyline and release of one of the most anticipated sequels ever. Here's what we know about Keanu Reeves' possible role as the antagonist in I Am Legend 2. This'll be one of the very few times Keanu has played the bad guy. By general consensus, Keanu's probably the nicest man in Hollywood. He's also been known to play heroic roles in The Matrix, John Wick. He's a hitman, but hey, he's a nice hitman though.
Maybe not.
And the list goes on and on.
I'm going to need a gun.
One of the very few times he's played the villain was in 2013's Man of Tai Chi, a film that marked his directorial debut. Aside from that, Keanu's always been the guy who saves the day in the end. Well, his rumored role in I Am Legend 2 might break his on-screen good guy streak once again.
No referees, no rules. Pure fighting, man to man.
Now, Warner Bros. Has been keeping awfully quiet about Keanu's role in the upcoming sequel. And we don't even know for sure if the John Wick actor will star alongside Will Smith or not. I sure hope he does though, because while the 2007 film was amazing, it could have been done with a more human antagonist, don't you think? So, on that note, what sort of villain could Keanu play in the sequel? Ever since someone leaked that Reeves was in talks with Warner Bros. For a role in the second film, the internet's been going insane. People on Reddit have taken up the task of deciding on what sort of villain Reeves should play. Now, there are three ways to go. The first would be having the John Wick star play the role of the leader of the Darkseekers, an ultra-mutant-type character of sorts, and face off against Smith's Robert Neville in the last action sequence. Or, Keanu could be the mutant who kills Anna and Ethan, and Neville's whole purpose in I Am Legend 2 is to seek him out. But here's why some users thought this was unlikely. I mean, think about it. Would the studio really hire one of the most recognizable men in Hollywood to star in a film, only to have his face completely covered with makeup and prosthetics? I wouldn't bet on it. Okay, so the second theory is a lot more plausible, as is the storyline with nearly every post-apocalyptic script. Reeves' character might have banded together with a group of survivors, whose only role is to destroy whatever little of the world the Darkseekers have left. Is it more plausible? Yes. But is it an exhausted storyline? Also yes. So what do the good people on Reddit believe Reeves' role in the sequel could be? The most upvoted comment on the thread suggested that Reeves isn't the villain per se, but someone who believes he's doing right by his people, only to discover in the end, when he meets up with Smith's Neville, that he's really the bad guy. Now, the reason why this comment gained the most traction was because it was in line with I Am Legend's author, Richard Matheson's original storyline for Neville in the 1954 book. At the end of the novel, Neville comes to terms with the fact that he wasn't the good guy he initially thought he was. But wait, that's not how the movie ended, right? The movie scrapped Matheson's original ending because test audiences hated it. When it was announced that the Matrix star would be playing the antagonist in I Am Legend 2, I might have let out a squeal. This was exciting news. However, once the euphoria of having Reeves on board wore down, everyone had one question for Warner Bros. How could you make a sequel with Will Smith when his character died in the 2007 film? Well, the studio has decided to scrap its theatrical ending to I Am Legend, and instead go with Matheson's ending and pick up the sequel from there. Matheson's ending was actually what Warner Bros. Had gone for, but apparently the ending was seen as anticlimactic by test audiences, since Neville turned out to be the anti-hero in the actual ending. I'm sure you remember how I Am Legend ended. Neville finds the cure in time when the Darkseekers ransack his home. He manages to find a way out for Anna and Ethan with the cure, and blows himself up. Anna then hands the cure to the military and claims that in sacrificing himself, Neville became a legend.
Dr. Robert Neville dedicated his life to the discovery of a cure and the restoration of humanity.
Poetic, right? But Matheson's ending had Neville realize that the Darkseekers were actually fairly intelligent beings, and not the mind-numbing zombies he saw them as all along.
I can say I can help you. You are sick, and I can help you.
Turns out the only reason they'd been chasing Neville was to retrieve the female test subject he'd kept locked up in his basement. The test subject was one of the Darkseekers' mates, and the whole lot of them simply wanted her back, and didn't want anything to do with Neville, who they saw as a madman. When Neville realizes this and hands the female test subject back over to the group, he locks eyes with the alpha male of the group and realizes that he was the bad guy all along. Because the Darkseekers didn't choose to be their vampire-like forms, and Neville deliberately chose to abduct and experiment on a living being. Well, somewhat living. So how will the sequel progress? Akiva will be returning for the sequel, and he revealed to Deadline that the studio had decided to break canon and go with Matheson's ending. I mean, it's obvious why. They can't have a sequel to a film where the protagonist blows himself up, and then expect the same actor to reprise his role in the second film. Neville might be immune to the virus, sure, but he's not made of steel and can't miraculously survive detonation. I'm sure trying to make sense of how he survived being blown up was a lot more difficult than coming out and saying Matheson was right all along. First announced back in 2008, the sequel's been a long time coming now. But with the budget cuts, one thing and the other, Warner Bros. Had to temporarily shelve the project. And the latest setback was Smith's infamous Oscars slap. Oh, speaking of that, people believe Keanu might only be on board to redirect Smith's negative PR. Keanu has an impeccable reputation for being an all-around good Samaritan, which is why some people on Reddit believe that's the only reason he was asked to star in I Am Legend 2 alongside Smith, so that people would focus more on him than they would about Smith's return to the big screen. Let's face it, the King Richard star hasn't been everyone's favorite celebrity lately, and slapping the living daylights out of Chris Rock hasn't sat well with millions of people. So that's a compelling conspiracy theory for why Reeves was chosen as the perfect candidate, to divert all the bad press Smith would likely get. If this is true, Warner Bros. Played their cards right. The sequel's also set to star Michael B. Jordan in a lead protagonist role opposite Smith, in what many think is a passing the torch type of situation. That could help Warner Bros. Cash in on the I Am Legend franchise for a while longer, without necessarily having Smith on board for every project. Okay, so that's all on Reeves, his co-stars, and how the story will probably start for the sequel. Now let's talk about when I Am Legend 2 will be released. The truth is, I don't know. I know that's not the answer you were looking for, but Warner Bros. Has kept many of the project's details a secret, and they only announced that there will be a sequel and that Goldsman will be directing yet again. But hey, there are rumors going around suggesting that production will begin in late 2023 if it hasn't already, and wrap up by late 2024 or early 2025. The 2007 film was released in December, making it the highest-grossing non-Christmas related film to be released in the month since, well, ever. Maybe Warner Bros. Is looking to try their luck again. So, from news on I Am Legend 2's release dates, to one of the rare instances where Reeves will play the bad guy, that was everything on Keanu Reeves' possible role as the villain in I Am Legend 2.